Hello, everyone. Glad y'all are able to come here and join us tonight. Um, Before we get started and everything, as we always talk about that, as the presentation goes along, everyone in chat and if you would just refrain from initials and names, because like I said, we don't want to influence anyone that might call in that one tilt that um, Indiana State Police is looking for. And so we just want to make sure that everybody has open minds and everything at all times. And but we'll get started here. I'll start my bio here.
Wait.
It'll be just a second here.
Quicken. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Oh, wait a minute. We don't like that, do we?
No.
All right, you like that one?
That's the one we're going to go with.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out some of the ins and outs of this and which screens we want to like. I think this in here will fit best for the those at home so they can see clearly. If anyone's got, as they age like me, my eyes ain't what they once were. But anyway, this is my bio. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, 20 years of experience. Worked everything from the jail to investigations, from minor cases all the way up to homicides. Worked for SWAT team. I'm a state certified crime scene tech, and I'm retired now. And we'll get on with the show tonight. As we're going to be entering into discussing the Anthony Shots account and the profiles and some stuff about analyzing the transcript of when he was interviewed by law enforcement. And as I was looking at the information and going through those 194 pages of information and questions asked and seeing how they were targeting and just within those first 100 pages, there was some critical information there that screamed to me that people like this are really a threat, and rightly so. We should recognize them as a threat, and rather than trying to go like we normally do, just have that one show on Wednesday, I thought this week we was going to do it in two parts. This first part is more of a address the issue as a community, that with all the information that Abby and Libby gave us to assist in solving their case, they also gave us a wealth of information of how that we can protect ourselves and our neighbors and our friends. And I thought that prior to going into all the evils that we will be going into, we'll talk about some of them on tonight's show, but we'll be addressing a lot more of the evils and psychological part of the declines and what true monsters they are. But I wanted to dedicate tonight's show more along the lines so that we as good parents and that we would be able to have some information so that we can pass along to our children and to our friends, because regardless, pedophile rings and everything, our children are our most vulnerable. And we as adults, we believe that we're not as vulnerable and everything, but certain times you place yourself at risk that there's predators all across the board, even for the older and for the young adults that's coming out of school or going to college and things, that those predators that focus and target that age group are just as dangerous as what Bridge Guy is. And so I wanted to get some into the social media aspects of what this monster, the clients, have exposed, of how people can come online and through their catfishing absolutely destroy not only children, but adults and families and everything else. And so I wanted to do that so that we could honor Abby and Libby, and that we'd have a platform whereas we could spread the words and recognize that there's more to not just going over what happened to two victims, but going over and realizing that what happened to those two victims is such a platform that we can help our communities and make sure that others don't go through the same thing that their families had to go through. So therefore, like I said, I want to honor them with tonight's show, and we'll be talking about some other stuff towards the end of the show also. This is one of the excerpts that from the transcript, and this is the mentality that that the clients have, that Keegan had when he was talking to the law enforcement. That yeah, he talked to one of the girls, including day of, but he says a lot of people do that, and then they get killed, but that doesn't mean that he killed them, or as he said, that doesn't mean I killed them. But that's the mentality of this man, that he sees nothing wrong, or he doesn't, most people, I mean, you think in your own lives, we've all talked to people, and some of them have died within a week or a month, and sometimes maybe even day of. But those people didn't die by someone that had a motive, that they spoke to, that had a motive that possibly was the reason that they died. The Kleins most certainly had a motive, that if they were involved in this case, being someone that exploits children and has possession of child pornography, and as we'll discuss, especially Wednesday night, of what he searched for on the internet, that he was targeting a certain group of an age child. And when you target a certain age child and the people that die are within that age range, then most certainly this is why law enforcement believes that they should have been talked to and should be people of interest. But we also should know that these are the people that when you go online, that you may expose yourself to. But any of you can go out there and you can type in the Anthony Shots account, and you'll see that there's all kind of articles and references to Anthony Shots, updates, fake profiles, updates as far as murder, the published interviews, and that detectives are seeking more information about these uncovered online schemes and profiles, not just so much for Anthony Shots. It's just one of many. And they had many platforms that they could work from. It's not just Anthony Shots. The clients created other fake accounts also, and was communicating, and you'll see the devil in the details. Just in the first 100 pages, as I've gone through them and preparing not only for tonight's show, but preparing for Wednesday, that it is extremely disturbing what a monster Mr. Klein is. Now, regardless if he's ever brought into the picture as far as the murder of Libby and Abby, he most certainly is just as much a monster as Bridge Guy. This man has no soul. And sadly, with the charges that he's facing, he will probably never get the justice that we think that he should get. Because even facing 30 counts of what he did, with our current court systems, the way it works, there's going to probably be a lot of us that are disappointed upon his day of sentencing, sadly. But anyway, let's get on in here. I went online and searched for different types of apps, especially like Yubo. And one of the first articles that jumped out at me is that when I did that search for the Anthony Shots and Yubo, there was one of the headlines was said 15 best apps like Yubo. And they had Instagram, the Facebook, the Reddit, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitch, and all kind of little dating apps and everything that you could imagine. Absolutely unbelievable. And so while there's nothing wrong with online dating or social medias and groups that get together, but we most certainly have to prepare ourselves that as we face these dangers, that we've set up some safety features and about how to meet people, where to meet people, how to guarantee our safeties and things. And but it's absolutely when I went in there, I've been married 32 years, so I have no need to go on these applications or apps and try to find some way to entertain myself.
That hurt you.
Yeah, she'll hurt me. I can go fishing whenever I want, and then me and a wife, Mrs. Steve, we have a great relationship, and we go out and enjoy our lives and everything else. But some people don't have what I have, and so and I most certainly believe that all of us should live our lives at the to the best that we can. But realize that if you go out there and these people, these true monsters that have personalities, that they're predators, for example, what Keegan Klein, he'd go online, and as his expertise and how he had learned, he'd go online and imitate that he was a girl, so that he could lure other young girls into conversations. And but that's just how predators' minds work. They're going to become what you want them to become. If you want them to be the dashing silver knight in armor, that's what they'll be up until the point that they decide that they wish to attack you. And so we have to make certain that we have certain safeguards out there so that we can protect ourselves. And so whenever you go onto these programs and you're going out there and exposing yourself, because whenever you do victimologies, just like the victimology that was done with Libby and Abby, they looked at that and they identified a lot of exposures that they would have had, and they located the Anthony Shots count rather quickly, because there was a search warrant done at the Shots residence, or at the Klein residence, in February, just a short period right after the Libby and Abby were murdered. And so they were identified. Now, they weren't arrested for a couple, 3 years, and that could have been some of the details that law enforcement kept close to their chest while they furthered the investigation, so they could get not only the Kleins, Keegan Klein, off the street because he was a monster, but they had him under surveillance, and then they ran parallel investigations and to the largest pedophile ring in the state of Indiana. And who knows how far it reaches, and does it reach into even further? How far does it go into the dark web? Because Keegan, some people says that he doesn't have sense enough to do certain things, but he most certainly, I believe, is a little bit smarter than what most people give him credit for. Sadly, he exposed and destroyed, so many lives. And he, there's a certain part of the interview that we'll get into, whereas he doesn't want to hear what was happening to some of these children that he had video on his phone of. He can distance himself all he wants to. He can blame it on other people, but it's his phone. It's his phones that he tried to swipe clean. That last one especially, and he can say what he wants, that he doesn't want to hear it, but he most certainly for a long time wanted to watch it, and but he doesn't want to hear it when it's coming from the mouth of a law enforcement officer, and which is absolutely understandable, that he knows that that he is trapped, and he's a liar. The officers tell him that you lied continuously up to the certain points, and he's going to lie all the way up to the certain points of when he's sentenced. And but he most certainly, as I've gone into it, and even those first 100 pages of the transcript, the information that was contained in there, not even about, hadn't even got to the part where he's talking to Libby and Abby during their sleepovers and during the contacts and during the morning of that, or the day that they were abducted and murdered, that he's in there and he's talking to them, and then it's all innocent that, oh, I didn't know, anybody could have been in my position. No, not anyone could be in your position. You're a very unique animal, and you placed yourself in that position. And I hope justice is brought to you. Vince here is who, he's the male model that Anthony Schott's account that the clients went and decided to use. But as you can see here, not only was Keaton Klein using him.
I'm having Google machine problems.
Yeah. Just leave it alone.
I can't.
But anyway, but as you can see that there's many that used Mr. Vince's. I didn't use his last name. Of course, you can see it and everything. But Vince is an innocent kid at the time that was a male model. And I think he may still do some modeling now, but he's a police officer up in Alaska somewhere, and good looking guy. And everybody out there, they've used him. And how many times have other people created profiles with his image, and how many victims are they that at some point will that are linked to his image? And of course, he absolutely hates it, but no fault of his own. He's in the era of what the internet offers, and he most certainly. I hope that he has made well off of his internet and his profiles, and he seems like a nice kid. I work with a lot of great officers, and I wish him the best in law enforcement. But we get to the point of why people catfish, and some of these animals, they have a lot of reasons. Some of them just want to be part of the social media platform. They may have different issues such as insecurity, but they'll conceal their identities. Some of them are just mental illness, and they're, all these people. Some of them just troll other people. They take it as it's a prank. It's how I can trick people, and some of them do it for revenge. And this is one that we have to be extremely careful on, because there's all different types of when people catfish and they're trying to lure a victim in for revenge, and then the experimenting with sexual preferences, harass their targets. And it's even been noted in several high-profile serial killings across the country that there's certain percentage, it's a low percentage, but that through dating apps and other things, where some serial killers have gone out there and had multiple victims that they have assaulted, cornered, and caught by surprise. And so you must always be aware that, anything you do and how you do it may put you at risk. This is another excerpt of so you were the one that sent those pictures to her, and as you read it along with me, that you talked to her before the sleepover. You're the one that talked to her all that weekend, and you're the one that talked to her, one of the last people to talk to her before she was murdered. That's what you're telling me. And he says, yeah, I guess. And but as we get into more of the stuff, this is why the clients were focused on, and this is why they most certainly have that you can see why law enforcement would look at this as motivation, that this man was cornered at some point. Did Libby and Abby identify him as someone that was catfishing? Did they recognize and had realized that he was a pedophile? Had they threatened? Because there was a lot more communications than what we have and what was revealed in this 194 pages. And as I read through and I analyzed and I looked at it, I can see that where the focus and the target of the transcripts went and what it meant. And but this was a long-term grooming aspect of what the clients did to these two young children. And not only was he doing it to these Libby and Abby, but within the pages of that transcripts, there's a lot more victims. And as I've looked at it and I've seen and the ages that they focused on, extremely disturbing what the Kleins are capable of. Keegan is a true monster, a true animal. And of course, as we talk about Delphi, that's what we want to do. But I also want y'all to realize, talk to your children about this. When they get of age and they can understand and they have access to their phones in certain situations and whatever parental controls you have that can control them, but realize that children are very innovative and they're going to find ways to jump around and get around almost and outflank you on just about everything, because children are so far more advanced than what we give them credit for. And this is one of the disturbing things that the Kleins were doing to Libby and Abby. They were discussing that you're trying to get nude images from Liberty, and you spoke to her actually. And then, of course, Mr. Klein, he says, oh, any girl I talk to, it's just not one girl. It's any girl I've ever talked to. And so this is the mindset of this monster. And don't think it's just the 13, 14-year-old girls. There's some that a little bit older, but still minors, and there's some younger. And some of the stuff that was discussed is, like I said, this man here, he has no need to be breathing. But unfortunately, I don't believe the sentencing that he's going to get includes what truly a monster of his caliber deserves. And as long as he and others like him are out there and have the ability that they can communicate behind this curtain and this veil of not being identified, and as long as we allow them to be able, and we don't check them and make sure and identify them before we exposed ourselves to us, or we expose our children to them, that, there's certain things we've got to do. Because like I said, this predator here, Mr. Klein, he is absolute ruthless. And then the officer talks to him and says, we have these grooming pictures. We have the money, the Anthony Shots money account going to her. And he says, of course, this stacks up after a while, meaning that this was a long-term, this was something that he was sending money to, and he, his mindset was, how far am I going to take this? When am I going, what ultimately was his goal? Was it just to get as many nude pictures as he could so that he could profit off them? Was it some type of fantasy that he was building on? And did he act on that fantasy? And all of these are motives, but it's just not for Liberty or Libby and Abby. It could, these other girls too. He has the same fantasy world towards them as he has towards any 13 or 14-year-old. And I will never be able to tell you the depth of my concern I have for our children because of monsters like this. But some of the things that we can do, and we can advise our children, our neighbors, our friends, or anyone that, if you're going to be going out there exposing yourself to some of these sites, make sure that it's just not, you got that if you say, okay, let's have a virtual meeting. And if you don't have that, then we most certainly don't want to meet him somewhere in a place of where we're unable to protect ourselves, because a lot of things could happen. And we don't know all the details about the day of Libby and Abby. What type of face-to-face audio or video or virtual meetings did they have? Was it all just text messages? Appears to be that way. It doesn't appear that they had any type of virtual meetings or anything, but most certainly we need to always check this box and make sure that we have some type of virtual meeting, make sure everyone's online, and that with the cloud and everything now, we can store that information so that if something does happen, that they're able to defeat all your safety measures to protect yourself and your children, that you've checked all the boxes, and at least we have something to work with. You can check, go on there and see what type of, if they're on social media wanting to date and everything, or meet with you, we got to make sure they have some type of online presence. They have no followers, very few friends. Like I said, this list here is recently created profile. They use professional pictures, such as what Vince of using his professional model career, and all still images, and so that they can do certain things. Because these monsters, they go out there, they not only groom our children to be able to take advantage of them, but in a lot of cases, they're able to groom adults. But they'll use these stolen pictures. They'll ask for money, and they'll be, asking, or they may even send money just trying to help you out, hoping that they're setting you up so that you'll supply them with, that you may feel that you owe them something, some explicit images. These people, they will create a false sense of reality that you may fall into. You'll fall into this fog, and you'll think that, oh, they really do care for me. But we have to do everything we can and check and make sure that we don't. If we see one of our friends entering a relationship with a certain individual, we need to have an honest conversation with them, just like we do with our children. That there is evil out there, and if you cross paths with it, you may not survive that first meeting, and or the second meeting. So you have to be extremely careful whenever you put yourselves on the line out there. But if you do recognize and you do realize that you're being stalked, you're being taken advantage of, or if you know someone that is, there is an option for us all to be able to do. You can contact FBI. They have this Internet Crime Complaint Center. You can go online, just search FBI, and you'll find it. And you most certainly need to report this animal. And the reason I'm going over all of this tonight is like when we go into more of the depth, and as we discuss it tonight, when we get in the question section tonight, for anyone that has questions about some of the findings within the transcript, that you must always be able to prepare for the worst case scenario. And like I said, this is one way that we can to protect ourselves, and we most certainly if you recognize someone in your family that's being taken advantage of, you may have to step forward and just bust their bubble and say, before you go to this extreme, or before you meet him, let's do some more background checks on him and everything, or let's get a group of people together before you meet an individual. Play it smart. And but anyway, now we'll get into the question and answer.
All right. Let's see what we have. Got to go all the way back to the top. Okay, we have somewhere.
All right.
All right. Yep. How are you, Cindy? All right. We have Lynn. Hi, everyone.
Yep.
Let's see here, Gillian. Must have been at the black. We're gonna skip that. You want to do the yellow app?
Yeah, you can.
All right. Trying to get this. Okay, finally, did it show up? Yes, it did. All right. I still say that the yellow app was used, probably to live stream this, or somebody was definitely watching it happen.
And they're discussing about, that the FBI, whenever they did their search warrant, they were talking about devices or whereas there may have been some type of way of memorializing it. And could it have been live stream? It's possible. Don't know. And, if it was, and if it was captured out there, I believe that it would have come to law enforcement's attention by now. But there's there's so many different ways that he may have memorialized it. Just by, BTK did the same thing back in his day. He would just take a picture of it and memorialize it that way so that he could take it home and relive the experience.
Yuck. All right. Same one. All right, and this is Kelly Aaron again. Length of time, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Libby was talking to these fake profiles because her phone is a blueprint to all this.
Yes, what she did on her phone and what through the victimologies of when they went in there and looked for the phone records and stuff, that they were able to go in there and identify within a short period of time of what this predator was setting up the family for, or Libby and Abby for. And act on the search warrant. And then as the parallel investigations to the homicide went, and they realized that they're dealing with a pedophile ring, that they were able to make arrests across the country, if not around the world. We don't know the full potential or results of what this parallel investigation has been, and it's all owed to that. What Libby and Abby were able to do that day and what they did in the past, and through the investigation of their exposure on some of these apps.
Can't miss the show, Johnny. Is that our Johnny?
No.
All right. Let's see here. People like this usually create a whole group of fake accounts. I think his slide proved that, right?
Not only that, but Kelly, you're absolutely correct. There's a section as I've gone through here and as I've looked at all the profiles that Mr. Klein created and had access between him and his father. I haven't, until I wanted or was asked to do this about the interview, I didn't realize all that was in there. But now as I've gone in there and looked at each of these accounts and looked at the searches made on these accounts and the contacts that he made in these accounts, it is absolutely sickening of how a mind such as his works.
All right. Let's see here. We got lots of hellos from everybody. Hope everybody's doing good.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. Peace Not Silence was hilarious. She was trying to drop Sunny's link and she wasn't a moderator, but she is now.
Okay.
I got me some moderators tonight. It's been awesome.
And you can make peace one too.
I did.
Okay.
She already is.
Excellent.
I did. Let's see here. All right, here we go. And Marv put us on the big screen TV. That's scary.
All right.
She
Excellent.
says it wasn't, but I think it is very scary.
Excellent. Thank you.
75-inch big screen TV.
And I want to thank Marv and Frank again for everything that they did as far as giving me a platform to start with. And most certainly, I'll continue to work with them as much as I can on anything that they want me to work on, because they have great insight into the case along with Randy, and they truly want to have an impact on this case. And I've been certain things about this community that is focused on Delphi. I have been absolutely amazed, and it's been an honor to work with all you. That I've been treated extremely respectful. I've had some absolutely unbelievable thought-provoking emails and comments, and I like that for the fact that I may miss some certain things. Like I said, I'm not the mind I used to be a few years ago, but as you get older, all of us are going to experience that. But I most certainly appreciate all y'all coming together, and we've got a long way to go on not only this case but on other cases. And I most certainly want to thank you as we go through these. That working as a community, this is our best shot. Law enforcement has a strategy. Does that strategy include us as part of it? Other than the one tip, that's the only thing I really know right now that is part of law enforcement strategy is that they just want us for that one tip, and rightly so. And we as a community want to be able to supply that one tip. But once again, I ask law enforcement to step up and give us some more information to work with, because I think, at a certain point, either their strategy has absolutely worked and they have a person of interest, a suspect, and they're about to act on it. But if they don't, then they most certainly need to change some parts of their strategy to make sure that we as a community can bring justice.
This is for you. Molly. Hi, Steve and Mrs. Steve. Good to see you back on the Google machine. I've had issues on the Google machine today. So there you go. Not only him. All right, let's see here. Now, we had some good ones down here. Molly, I re-listened to the full police interview today.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, he is such a liar and can't keep his own story straight.
And that's the thing, just like with the psychopaths and this monster of where he will fit into the sociopath, psychopath, sexual predator that he is, that they always have this fantasy world, and within that fantasy world, keeping their lives straight is an impossibility. And most certainly, he's been caught in quite a few, and he'll be caught in a lot more. The depth of what this individual and whatever his sentence is, he's not going to change. I don't care what he tells the court. I don't care anything that he says or does. He is an animal. His sexual preference, he may have sex with older adults, but his sexual preference, and from what he searches on the internet for, is those young preteen, 10-year-old, 12, 13, 14-year-old girls. That's his main focus in life, because you can't just, your searches on the main searches consist of those of people having sex with that age group. Then, of course, that's what he fantasizes about. And as he goes further into his life, and how many times has he manifested that we don't know of? Of course, he says he's innocent and hasn't. He just owns pornography of children, which is, that is not even fathomable to me. If I see someone with child pornography, I know what that means. They're a child predator, and I have absolutely no use for them.
All right. Sunshine, 1979 at True Crime Web. Thank you both for covering this so deep.
Thank you.
He has spent many, many hours looking at this.
Yeah. And this morning, Sunshine, that was a great show. And if y'all get a chance, check out Sunshine's channel. She did a great little show this morning, but check her out. And she has great passion for what she's doing.
Marvin Frank, Vince is popular.
That he is.
I know why he's popular. He's a cutie bug. See?
Yeah. All right.
Can't help it. All right. So let's see here. Marvin Frank is on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 Central.
All right.
We'll be looking for that. They'll be discussing Delphi.
Excellent.
All right. All right. And then let's see here. What?
Go with that Kelly right there.
That one?
Yes.
Yeah. KAK made money on the dark web. That's why they took the dog. It wasn't for fibers. It was the bestiality on the phone.
There was I was watching an interview today where a neighbor was discussing, because I was always wondering who came and got the animal. and was it just dog pound? But from what the neighbor that was interviewed said, that there was a lot of unmarked vehicles, which dog pound doesn't come in a lot of unmarked vehicles. So there's most certainly, if that's a true statement, then there's a lot to be considered about what type of evidence might have been at the crime scene. But I did find that interesting, and I found your comment link in with what one of the videos I watched today while I was doing my research, prepping for tonight and for Wednesday.
All right, Jolly Scrapper. Wow, this scares me to death. I had no idea there were that many accounts set up with this Vincent profile. It scared me too. I didn't know it either.
And that's not all of them. That's just what I could. That picture I cropped that's just from that. But I mean, and it's just not him. All the models out there that have a social media presence, any and all of them can be used, and they can be used by the same predator with different accounts, and that and you'll never know unless you do some of that virtual in meetings, or you invite someone to come to a public place with you and your friends, and you know, you don't have to tell them that Uncle George and the rest of his wrestling team's going to be there with you when they show up, and you know, and that might be your protection, you know, that you buy them a beer when you go to the meeting, and but whatever, don't put yourself at risk with these people, because you don't know what you may think that you're able to defend yourself, but from some of these animals, they'll do whatever it takes, either through drugs or whining and dining you to the point that you'll let your guard down, and we most certainly don't want to become a headline.
Marv and Frank, people catfish me all the time because I have Abby and Libby's pic as my profile.
That's
wow. Interesting. That is interesting. Almost kind of creepy. All right, Molly. Catfishing is one more reason to not put your kids' pictures on social media. Those creeps get off on seeing anyone's kids.
And it does. And these animals, that once they get their hooks into, or they build a fantasy world, they'll go to extremes of grooming your child, you know, and if you just casually looking at the profiles of someone talking to your child, you may not see the full danger. And so you have to be extremely careful of what can happen. And it's absolutely, you know, heartbreaking when it does happen, and the parents may not realize. I become aware today, I didn't know the depth of how big and where all the Klein avenues went. But most certainly by the time, and I've still got, I don't know, another 30 or 40 pages to go through before I'll have everything ready for tomorrow night. But
Wednesday night.
I mean, for Wednesday night. And you know, it's heartbreaking reading and looking at some of these communications of what Klein was telling these 12, 13, 14-year-old children, and what they were saying back, because some of the conversation is that these children already have been preyed upon by other sexual predators, be it a family member or otherwise. And that's sad in and of itself.
And Marvin Frank says that she gets a lot of them sending messages on Facebook Messenger.
Well, now you take my screen right here and file them complaints.
All right. So peace, not silence. Steve, do you think when a profile looks, quote, too good to be true, that image reverse search is actually a good tool to use for the everyday citizens as a protective measure?
Absolutely. It's always a step towards that. And yeah, there's so many apps out there and so many programs. And, but yes, that's a great idea. And I wish I had put it in that slideshow, but I'll watch this back and I'll write that down. But that's another great tip for everyone out there that you can do that. Use, there's a lot of programs out there on the internet that you can use, do reverse images and identify certain people, and most certainly do so.
All right. And Melissa, I have a creep walk around our neighborhood just staring in windows from the street.
Well, and he may be staring in the window from the street, but once it gets dark, most certainly he may take it to the next level. And most certainly make sure that law enforcement is aware and see if they can't come and identify him.
Let's see here. Marvin Frank. Yep, they like the Google image reverse as well. Let's see here. That's the neighbor's house.
There's Deb.
There's Deb.
There's Deb.
You asked about her. There
I
she
did.
is.
Good to see you back,
on
Deb.
live tonight with Adam.
Good for you, Deb. Take care of them. Straighten them back out. I had no control.
All right. Let's see here. Where's that's Melissa's neighbor. Okay. Digital. If Keegan blocked Libby for being annoying, I think she called him out, maybe threatened to expose him.
And like I said, this is part of, was this the motive or motivation? Don't know. But most certainly this is what law enforcement would be considering and what they did consider. And just how far have they acted on it and where will it go? And this is how come until someone is arrested, law enforcement will not drop an avenue that will consider him as a suspect unless they've got some type of information that absolutely clears him. They will always consider him a suspect for the fact that, and rightly so. It may not be that he's on the bridge, but did he take measures that might have caused the death of Libby and Abby? And until someone's arrested, we have to absolutely keep that in mind and consider it as a possibility.
All right. And Marvin Frank, KK had to have been talking to them for 3+ months.
The investigation, I'm sure they have the exact timeline through the certain phones. Now, Mr. Klein, he uses a lot of different phones, and quite frequently he go to another phone. So, and did he have other phones that they don't even know or was aware of? And how did he use other phones if he did? Because there's some phones he sold, and but most certainly there's other ways that he could have communicated, and I have no doubt that he did so.
All right. Anna Lizette, I feel so sad that Libby must have believed.
Anthony Short.
Okay.
Shots. Anthony Shot.
Oh, yeah. Was rich and exciting. Guys who have all that will not be trolling the internet. Too much risk and liability.
That is
absolutely.
Yep. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true.
All right. Marvin Frank, make sure you're checking profiles. If someone sends friends requests, if the person hasn't posted in a while, don't add them. If they have few friends, don't add them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see here. What else we got? Anna Lizette, don't get personal with unknown people on the internet. If you get to know someone over time because of a shared interest, then it may be okay.
And even at that point, make sure that they haven't groomed you for long term, because some of these predators, they're not only talking to one individual, they may have as many as with internet now and what you can do with internet. They may have a whole book of potential victims from anything from just money or uh, uh, sexual encounters to actually doing harm. And so they may be grooming a lot of different individuals at the same time and playing the numbers that within that large group of potential victims that they're going to score on one of them. And so you most certainly have to realize that uh, the potential is out there. And these guys, just even like Klein, uh, he had, he was a true predator because he knew how to drop the awareness and the make someone drop their guard by imitating being another young girl of the same age and creating a false profile, which our children, they're not as mature. They don't understand it as much as we do. And so they most certainly will fall for those tricks. And we as adults must make sure that we protect them from that.
All right. Sierra has a question for you. Why did Ellie let this go for 3 years? Not just Delphi, but the porn.
Yeah.
Porn.
Yeah, the porn.
Yeah.
It is a very disturbing thing that the federal government does and law enforcement does. And it's the same thing that DEA does when they work with local task force. They'll identify drug rings, cartels, whatever you want to call them, and they'll do a long-term investigation if it's a pill mill or if it's a pedophile ring. And they look at some of the victims at what point. And I've always had this argument that if you got enough to put people in jail for it, let's close it down as quick as we can, because if there's an innocent child out there that hasn't been exposed, why let some predator not only possibly just run them for the rest of their lives, but what if that sexual predator actually kills one and you could have shut it down yesterday? And I've always had that argument, and with anyone that wanted to say, well, let's wait and see if we can't catch some more of them. But at what cost? If it's your child or if it's one of those officers' child, would they be so willing to put their children at risk? And so I have a great problem with that. They do extend these investigations, and I'll always argue against it for the fact that if you have a predator out there, put him in jail. If you have a predator out there that's feeding other predators, put whoever you can in jail at the moment, and that's all you can do, because I don't think it's worth the risk of one more child.
A lot of these people ask you to move their conversation off of Facebook. They also ask for your phone number right away. That's from Marv and Frank. Okay. Let's see here. Peace not silenced. Problem is, I've seen so many kids do everything to defy their parents, so they get told not to. They will. I got lucky with mine who actually listen and they try to tell their friends, but it is scary. I'm with you, Peace.
And that's the importance that we have with what a community we are now, and what we have that we can demonstrate. Before this terrible tragedy that happened with Abby and Libby, and with this catfishing, that is a possibility, that is the motive for their murders, that we didn't have that, but Libby and Abby has provided that, and we most certainly must honor them and remember them, that whenever we are talking to our kids and to our friends, that we recognize them of the great sacrifice and the great damage that was done to that family by whatever monster on that day murdered them. And so it is an opportunity that we can use this as an example, and hopefully we can save some children from this.
I'm going to read that. Not out loud. Ignore.
Oh, no, I don't matter. Just leave it.
We'll just ignore.
Yeah, just ignore it.
All right, let's see here. Bridget Bowman. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Steve. Thanks for pointing out how dangerous Keegan is. Even though he looks like a dumb, harmless oaf, we know he and many like him are far from harmless.
In so many different ways, not only from what they speak of and what he was searching for, but these people that pay other people to go out and post such vile images and create such a atmosphere. Who's more guilty, the one holding the knife or the one holding the victim? They're both animals, and I have no use for either one of them. If you support pedophiles by watching their acts, you're just as guilty as the ones committing the acts. I have no use for either one of you.
Let's see here. Brian James. Doug Carter says we know about you. We know a lot about you, but then says the only tip we need is for someone to come forward with the right tip. What do you believe he means? That's just hard.
I'm going to hire me an interpreter and try to figure out. He is very confused. He is a great spokesperson, but sometimes he makes me just pull my hair out on some of the things he says, and just like that points out, he did it with the sketches, and he does it when he talks about that he's talking to a profile or whatever their strategy is of how to communicate with this psychopath or bridge guy. And but he is very confusing at times, and I think he's a great passionate man for law enforcement, but he does say some extremely confusing things.
All right, digital. Ellie has said they won't release killer profile because it's too revealing. What do you think that means? And wouldn't releasing that be a way to pressure killer or alibi without releasing evidence?
I say we release whatever we can on the profile, for the fact that the profile will be, there's certain stuff within that, when they create a profile, it's not an actual real picture of it, but there are a lot of commonality between what one type of killer and another killer of that exact type, that they'll have a lot of things in common. And but they'll also have some differences. And I most certainly think that the full profile, because they have a much, I can only guesstimate on certain things that FBI has discussed, and what does that mean of what type of person would have created certain things that the FBI mentioned in the search warrant, or what Carter and them during their news briefings, when they made certain statements, and when they're addressing, and there's a great argument of, are they talking to a person or are they talking to a profile? And trying to gather that intel from the words that they use of what type of personality they're talking to is extremely, it's challenging. And so I most certainly, whatever the BSU has, I think that would be a great something that they should consider releasing far more than what they have. But also tell the communities that there's going to be certain things that not everything in here is going to be true, but you're going to recognize certain traits. If you've been around this man, or if this man's married to your family and this man is treating certain members of your family a certain way, or he talks to you in a certain manner, or you've seen him do certain things, that it most certainly would be beneficial for us to have a profile of what this person day-to-day activities and what he may do when he gets mad, what he may do when someone challenges his authority, what he may do when he is even drinking or he loses temporary control of his emotions. There's a lot of things that can be within a profile that would be beneficial on identifying the suspect.
All right, Corgi Mama, we say Libby and Abby were both girls being catfished. I think we need to be sensitive to that. I haven't heard Anna speak since this whole revelation.
In the interview, law enforcement refers to certain times that the girls were together when the communications were going on, and that they say talk to one of them, and that you talk to them morning of, and so there's a lot of stuff out there that's indicative that we only really know so much about. That it was Libby's phone that everything is credited towards being catfish. We don't know what type of communications and what Abby's social media presence was. Don't know so much of her, but we do know that on Libby's side of it, there's, because she's one that the phone and everything came out of. So we don't know how often Abby would have had access to Libby's phones and how she would have used it. And but that is a good observation.
All right. Anna Lizette. Ellie won't release the killer's profile. So let's hope his next victims can profile him before he repeats double homicide. IMO. He is a threat to humanity until he is caught and identified.
And the DA most certainly, or the prosecuting attorney, Ives, he was very concerned about that possibility that it may take another case before this case of Libby and Abby was solved. And that does concern me. The FBI agent and Carter, of course, they went the other way and they think it would be solved. But when I heard Ives say that, that wasn't a very good, building my confidence.
All right. Molly. I have tried to delete my Facebook account. It is very, very difficult to get yourself out of their system. If anyone can recommend how to completely disconnect from Facebook, please advise her. She needs help.
Yeah, I don't have any idea.
I have no idea either. Let's see here. We're ignoring that.
Okay. Who is K-Cap?
I'm not sure.
Okay, K-Cap. Knock it off or you're out of here, Bo. Either abide by the rules, be respectful. This show is about Libby and Abby, and it's not about anyone else. And if you can't play by that, you're a distraction to what we really want to do with this channel. And so go ahead and get rid of KK.
Go find
Yeah.
him. I'll find him.
Yeah.
All right. Bridget, in that interview with Barbara McDonald, did you notice Keegan's lack of feeling when she said, quote, "So you were the last profile to talk to the girl where they were brutally murdered, etc." He says, right?
Oh, yes. And that's an extreme point of that, of where law enforcement rightfully should look at them. And until that's cleared, most certainly should address this issue and that great concern.
All right. And Marv, Steve, we have to chat soon. So much info coming in. I have to get your advice on.
Absolutely.
All right. K-Cap, I'm just trying to understand the views of this show.
Okay. The views of this show is anything and everyone. I don't control other people's channels and what they do. I only control what sites are on. And do I respect? I don't always agree with what every creator says, and nor do I have the time to go out and argue certain things. But I do know that there's certain compassions in all creators that they're trying to do the right thing. And you as a human, you don't have to agree with everybody's opinion, and but everyone does have a right to an opinion and be as passionate about as they want. And if you don't like my opinion, most certainly go elsewhere. And we'll see you later. And just
I have to go find him.
okay.
All right. Let's see here. Olivia too. Absolutely. The internet is a scary place for kids and teens.
Absolutely is. Absolutely is. Sadly, and but we have to step up as parents and try to do everything we can to protect them.
All right. Let's see here. No, I'm not going to do that one. Let's see here. Deb, the neighbor was also watching the dog while TK had surgery.
I take it they brought the dog back then.
All right. Elaine James, so much wickedness going on everywhere. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. Support with Steffa. I am 10 subscribers away from 500 to get my community page. Let's help her out.
Absolutely.
Go get it.
Proud for you. Proud for you.
All right. Justice, hello, Mr. and Miss Steve. So glad I caught the show. We are too.
Absolutely. Thank you for all your support.
We are too. Let's see here. Sunshine at Peace. Yes, I do have a channel, and yes, I'm covering Delphi, and I cover a lot more of some of the graphic cases that don't get coverage. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, let's see here. Support with Steph. I feel weird about dropping my own link. Never feel weird about dropping your own link. Go for it. Let's see here. Marvin Frank is asking, Peace, can you share Sunshine's channel here, please? All right, Sunshine is down, Peace is down. Deb, you did great, Steve. They're hard to
keep in line.
Yes,
and like I say, everyone has a right to opinions, and he has a right to an opinion. But is this really the time to try to figure out what my show is about? If you ain't realized it by now, you're not going to realize what my show is about. And but to each their own. And I wish him the best in the world wherever he wishes to go and watch and whatever he wants to do. But there's no need to even. It's almost as bad as what certain people do with investigations, that they'll come in and try to get some attention. That just like there were certain individuals that go into certain investigations and say, "Hey, I'm a suspect. I'm a guy that did this," and they just want 15 minutes of attention. And that's not the case, and that's not the type of persons in my community I'm looking for. And but I wish everyone the best in the world.
All right. Zen Monkey. The FBI was not involved in the interrogation of Keegan when he was arrested. What does that possibly mean?
We really don't know if that's the case or not. We don't know what contacts, because certain times that you may have access, or you may contact a behavioral science unit and ask them that this is the type of personality we're looking at. And so they may have gave them a certain strategy as they communicate. And most certainly when you go to interview schools and things, you have a certain understanding of different persons and different personality types, that just from that basic learning how to properly conduct an interview. So there's a lot of stuff out there. And how far did they take it? And with the interstate portion of child pornography, I believe the FBI would have had a certain amount of presence in this. But who handled in the interviews, I don't know, and how they address those issues, I don't know. But hopefully they continue to play a part in such a most important high-profile case.
And Bridget, Steve, do you feel LE have their man in sight and trying to prove it? And do you sense that this was a single offender at crime scene or multiple?
Great question. I'm hoping that their strategy has been fruitful and that they, as Carter says, we know a lot about you. And I'm hoping that is what we're having him in sight. And as far as how many offenders were at the scene, there was one most certainly dominant individual on the scene. And that dominant individual is the one that's on the bridge. And if there's a gun involved, he's the one holding the gun. If there's other suspects there, but bridge guy or whoever said down the hill is the one that was in charge. Was he by himself? Possible. Did he have others with him? Absolutely possible. And we most certainly have to address and consider until we see that crime scene, because the crime scene, I think they said, was mixed. There was some organized and disorganized, which can mean that even from the organized, you lose control for a moment and then you regain, or you do something for whatever reason that you have some type of mental lapse, or you have someone that's of a different classification as you, and brings in some unorganized clues or evidence into the crime scene.
All right. This is a good one from Kim. Do you think Abby and Libby's killer is still in Delphi?
Well, that is a hard one. The best chance for the case to be solved is that he's in Delphi. If he's a local, that will give it a chance to be solved. If it is one of those random killings, or if it is such a killing of someone passing through, then of course it will take either a breakthrough of some type of DNA, or it will take the breakthrough of that individual, that psychopath, getting caught in doing another crime.
All right. Looks like we're going to Indiana with Laura Doom. She's going to take us shopping and luncheon at Dad. Sounds like a date to me.
All right.
All right.
We're going to take you up on that one of these days.
We do want to come up there.
All right.
All right. Let me see here. Hold on. This thing jumps around all the time. Okay, there's the Discord one. Okay, here we go. This is what I was looking for. Alicia Stidham. How close to an arrest do you think law enforcement is? Seeing that Paul Holes is in town makes me hopeful that an announcement of arrest is coming very soon.
I hope so. I hope that with his introduction into it and focus on the case, and has a great impact on the case. And most certainly, anything, as long as we keep this at the forefront and we continue to work towards this one position of seeing that what justice we can bring towards Libby and Abby, that's what we should all be fighting for, and as much as possible. And but hopefully he can bring more to the case, most certainly than I or can ever do for what this case deserves.
All right. Also from Bridget, do you know if there were any very experienced people at the crime scene rather than the local guys who aren't used to these cases?
My opinion of what happened, when you look on the stage and you see 26, or they refer to as many as 26 agencies, and you listen to the special agent in charge from the FBI, that they provided every asset to local law enforcement and assisted local law enforcement in every aspect of the case. And as one special agent in charge said, there were days that there was more agents on the streets from the FBI than the other agencies combined. That at times they had at least 100 FBI agents on the streets within Delphi. And if you look through some of the news footage and things, you'll see that there are certain professional units brought in, even FBI crime scene units. And what part do they specifically play in the crime scene? Couldn't tell you. Don't know what happened in the crime scene, but they most certainly played a part either through being advisors or they actually worked alongside these others. What contamination or what damage was done prior to them getting there, I don't know. I'd be speculating at best of what to do with that, or where, what line and at what point were they able to step in and do and assist. But we can only hope that all those assets brought to bear will have an impact on the case at one time, in one day. Is it today? Is it tomorrow? Or at what point in time will they it all peak out? We don't know. But and no one, I'm sure, that was on that crime scene, just like the prosecutor I've said, everybody thought in the opening days of the case it would be solved in 2 or 3 days. No one even considered it was going to be 2 or 3 weeks. And you can look at the eyes and see the interviews now that we're at 5 years and law enforcement still has hope. But once again, like I said, we're at 5 years.
Alicia, KAK was in jail 15 months before it was publicly known. So I wonder if this killer could have been arrested already and they haven't released this info just yet.
It's absolutely possible, and I hope that is the case. And I'm hoping that that if they've broken anyone they've broken the relationship, that if they do have a person of interest suspect in jail, that they've allowed that alibi or that witness to build whatever it would take for them to break whatever bondage they have with a bridge guy. And I hope that is the case. But if it's not the case, we have a true monster psychopath still walking the streets.
All right, let's see here. Oh, Corgi Mom, I just got to show this one. I really love your channel. You both radiate such a compassionate, service-oriented hearts. Thank you. Let's see here. We had a question from Wanda. Listening to all the stories, do you think this killer was organized and experienced due to leaving little to no DNA?
I believe he was organized and experienced, but it's not due to what DNA was left. I don't know how much DNA was left. Don't know what type of DNA was left. But from the mannerisms of being able to control 2 victims from the get-go and get them several hundred feet away from their abduction point, and listening to his voice and his demeanor does show a certain amount of control and maturity. And yeah, it's not only, it may have just been blind luck as far as the amount of DNA that was left. Don't know. We don't know what was in that crime scene, but whatever was within the crime scene as far as DNA hasn't helped the case at this point, but maybe that'll change tomorrow or next day.
All right, support with staff. Has anyone heard of any updates since Paul's Holes being at the bridge yesterday?
No, I haven't.
Wow, that's interesting. Marvin Frank hoping to go back to Delphi in September.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Zooter 15. Mr. Steve, if there were 2 perps, could one be organized and the other not organized? Kind of like Sheriff Andy and Barney Fife.
And absolutely. And like I said, that can be the absolute basis of the mixed crime scene. And but if you do have organized and unorganized, the organized is going to be the dominant one. He's the brains of the operation, and most certainly he may be harder to find than the unorganized, but the case may be broken easier if you can identify the unorganized one before the fact that he won't be able to defend or lie himself out or have the ability to get out of it, such as organized and higher IQ'd individual.
All right. Big Steve 316 is going to open a can on BG. He's trying. All right. Allie H. Obviously, they do not feel that Keegan is the killer because they said to Keegan in the interrogation that they didn't think that. Surely they wouldn't have made such a statement if not certain.
In interrogations, like I said, what does killer mean? That, okay, we know that you may have caused the killing, but you're not the killer. We don't know what type of interrogation technique was being used and what kind of out they were giving Keegan. Was part of that interrogation is to say that, okay, we know you know who the killer is, and it's not you, but tell us who it was and work with us, because there's a lot of ways. And reading the text but not able to hear the inflections within the voice of the investigator and are seeing it in the video. There's a lot of stuff that you can tell from the way a question is asked and what cadence and following along those lines. But just reading text sometimes, the message can be lost exactly what they mean.
All right. And Bridget's got one more question. Is your feeling that this was a revenge crime is drug related, a catfishing scam, or a serial offender? Wrong place, wrong time for Libby and Abby. I know it's just speculation.
And
she sounds like me.
This question tells you actually it's exactly the avenues that law enforcement, they more than likely would be running parallel investigations on all three of what you just mentioned. That they're going to be looking at is either a revenge, drug related, catfishing scam, serial offender. They'll be looking at each of these and be open-minded until they identify a suspect. They won't know, but they'll most certainly. You have to keep open that it can be any one of these, and you may have certain people that are leaning more towards one than the other, but until you identify that person, you have to be, as an investigator, open-minded and not shut out, because when you start shutting out evidence or just due to your opinion, that can be very detrimental to a case.
All right. And Corgi Mama, what kind of job do you think BG does, or traits he would have as he conducts himself at work?
Yeah, I mean, if he's organized, he's going to, just like with BTK, I believe they're the same personality type, very dominating, seeks where he's in control, wants to be in control. And whenever like I've talked in other videos, that whenever he speaks, he has no problem interrupting your conversation, because it's only what he says and does that really matters. And but he'll have certain mannerisms and certain traits, and people will be able to realize that when you talk to him, and he may be, and he absolutely is he takes advantage of relationships. He'll abuse those relationships. That whatever it takes for him, he'll live off of if he can get money from you, he'll get money from you. And he's just a leech on the family. He'll be a leech at work. He'll be a leech in so many different ways.
From Kim, Steve, there has been a lot of talk that Delphi is a very crooked area. Have you heard this And what do you think?
It's very possible. Absolutely. But I mean, all communities, there's crime and there's law enforcement breakdowns and across the board. But unfortunately, um, a lot of things are overlooked until it gets to this point. Whereas we have so much focus upon agencies and things to perform their jobs. And then you get into an election year and then you see some of the people involved in elections doing wrong, which doesn't do anything to build confidence in law enforcement. And sadly so. And we most certainly need to work around that. It's getting pretty late there. So.
Oh, yeah, it is. All right. So Bridget says, thank you for your time.
All right, guys. Before we get into other people's time slots and things, I want to thank all y'all for being here tonight. Send me an email if you got some more questions or make comments. I try to get out there and answer all of them. But most certainly, all of us must remember that this is what I've created this channel about, that I'll take every opportunity I can, that not only that we try to identify bridge guy, but we also have to learn and appreciate and try to honor what these victims did for us, so that we can pass along their message of how that we can protect our children and do it in their memory and their honor. And most certainly, if any of you out there know anything about the case, most certainly, or you suspect something, most certainly contact this number, and let's put an end to the this bridge guy and this personality that's out there preying upon citizens and our children. But I want to thank you once again for being here tonight.
Wednesday.
And then on Wednesday night, we're going to be going into more of the profile and the interviews and talking exactly about the monster that the Kleins really are. But I'll see you Wednesday, and I appreciate y'all coming in here tonight. Thank y'all.